Hey, perfect timing as I'm getting the stuff out of my eye. Hey, everybody. We are here. We are live. If you are new to live, I always want to say this. We don't know you're here. So if you don't want us to know you're here, then that's good. You're doing a good job because we can't see you. If you want us to know you're here, you want to ask questions, participate, make comments, please do put it in the chat. Rachel's here. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. My social media person, Kylie, her team put together the video and I love it. So I'm going to plug Kylie real quick. And so please join the conversation. And we have Karyn Henson, who is one of my favorite humans, an amazing broker, an amazing realtor. And we're going to talk all things real estate. And I also have a few questions for Karyn, which I didn't give her any heads up on whatsoever, but I do have them sitting here on what's it like being a business owner. And so we're going to jump into that in a minute.
All right.
And here, let me put there. Can you see the chat, Karyn?
I can, yes.
Okay. All right, good. So I do have that question. So we're going to kind of like break the ice before we just jump into all the NAR stuff, which has been really quiet this week, right? You and I kind of talked about it.
Yeah.
But you are a phenomenal businesswoman. And obviously when you and I met and started working together, you were not a broker yet. You were a real estate agent. And I've been asking this question a lot since we've been doing business planning and market planning, and we're working on who do we want to be in 2024. So my question, and if you need time to answer, you can. When did you start feeling like a business owner versus a worker bee when you started your real estate company, your real estate business?
I would say it comes and goes. It's very interesting. So in the very beginning, probably 6 months, I didn't feel like a business owner at all. And part of that was just putting my head down, trying to figure out what does a business owner do, right? And then I started handling a lot of the tasks on the regular basis. And I can remember when somebody came to me with a broker question and I looked behind me for a broker and I'm like, oh no, wait, that's you. There's nobody behind you anymore. That was probably the moment. And I have to say that I still have moments where things like that happen. It kind of comes and goes. There's some new disclosure laws coming up for corporations in January upon the information. And so when things like that happen is when I realize there's still so much I don't know. So I'm still learning.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's all of those steps.
Yeah. I know what your superpowers are. And I don't want to go too deep into superpowers today. That's not what this call is about. But I do know what your superpowers are. And so again, I'm sorry I did not give you a heads up on some of these questions, but I know you know the answer to them really well. What do you love about being a realtor? And then what do you love about being a broker? Now I know the answer, but obviously somebody listening to this video later doesn't know. So yeah.
Right. Well, interestingly enough, they're the same. I like educating people on things, right? So I love when I have a buyer, especially a first-time home buyer that just and I love to educate them so that they understand what they're doing, not just me telling them. And then also compassion. And that's the very same thing for my agents too, teaching them how to be the best agent they can be and have the best balance that they can have in their life.
Yeah.
And so I just love that. And again, compassion. I take calls from my agents at all different hours. And sometimes if it's late, I'll ask them, can this wait till tomorrow? And they'll say yes. And then I'll ask, are you going to sleep tonight if I don't call you now? And they're like, no.
I love that question.
And so then I'll call them, right? Because it usually is short. Like, okay, we do need to discuss this more, but for tonight, I want you to know it's okay. This is okay. It's not going to explode, whatever the thing is.
Right.
And so again, that compassion, because the interesting thing, I don't know that a lot of people really understand that every real estate agent is a business.
Right.
And so agents have the ability to have a broker behind them. Thank goodness. Not every broker is there for their agents to the level that I am, which is part of the reason I became a broker.
Yep.
And so it's a lot of responsibility on someone that wants a backup.
Yeah,
Like you tell us, our
especially a
backup
newbie.
band.
Right?
Yes,
Especially a
especially.
newbie. It's one thing when you have, right, some top producers, are going to say, yeah, I really don't need a lot of broker help, but I'm glad you're here in case I do. And you kind of let them go, right?
Right.
And then and in case with you, where I know you have quite a few new agents, right? And they're not, it has nothing to do with luck. They're working hard, they're rolling up their sleeves, and they have transactions, right?
Yeah,
They need help, especially with all this new
they do.
changes.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah,
But
they really do.
regardless with it, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
myself,
that is your superpower, is your helping spirit. Yeah,
yeah,
it
thank you.
is.
And
Yep.
then I have my own, so I have a group of
Right.
small boutique brokerage owners that I communicate with on the regular basis. And we really hold each other up. And we have discussions about things that, sometimes none of us really know the answer, but we walk it out together.
Yep. Yep. And I find that interesting. I had a SOS call today with one of my clients who's a real estate agent, and I won't say who. And she is very much feeling like a business owner. I'm very proud of her because she is a business owner. And being a business owner can be very lonely. I'm raising my hand. I'm a business
Mhm.
owner, right? It is and can be very lonely. And so that's what she was feeling. And so we were
Mhm.
doing, I said exactly what you just said. I said, where's your backup band? Who can we add? Who do you need as a backup band? And we came up with some really great ideas. And one, it has nothing to do with, well, of course it has to do with her business. However, it's more about home, is she needs a house cleaner.
Oh,
Right. And I go, great, that's a great backup band. Right. And I also recommended, right, in our private Facebook group, is to connect with somebody that is similar to her, where you can connect once a week and have a coffee chat on Zoom, because she's, obviously everybody I coach is in different states, and some other things too that are a little bit more personal. But yes, a backup band is really important. I mean, I know there's some singers who love to get on stage and be all there by themselves, but that's not what a
yeah.
business owner needs to do. It's really important to
No,
have a backup band.
it is. And it's interesting you mentioned the house cleaner. I remember she was awesome. She would do anything. And there was times where I asked her, could you please go to the post office for me? I'll pay you double, just because
Yep.
I just a little more time and space to not, do things that I hadn't yet hired out. And so you really never know who's going to be
Yep.
what.
Right, exactly. And so Kylie just hopped on. Kylie, your ears must be burning because I was just talking about you. So anybody listening now, here's the Kylie I was just talking about. So cool, very cool. Thank you for showing up.
Hi, Kylie. Hi,
And so
Rachel.
Kylie's also a business owner, right? And and I know you were just hopping in. We were saying it could be really lonely, right? And sometimes making decisions can be, you second guess yourself. So having a good backup band is important.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And knowing when to ask for advice also, I will say,
Yes.
because there's times where I don't really want to hear what someone else's opinion is. And yet I've gone out and sought that,
Yeah.
right? And then I know
Yeah.
I'm not really going to listen to the advice. So now I've created a situation and I just need to own the decision, make it, and own however it goes.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot better at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yes. Yes. And, for me, I have a coach who's part of my backup band, and, Kylie's part of my backup band, right? It's just really important to have the right people.
yeah.
Yeah, she's and Kylie agrees. Sorry, I this is a little distracting for me because you and I keep getting bigger and smaller as I let people on. So Kylie, I need to talk to Marvin about this. All right, so let's jump into NAR a little bit, because 2 weeks ago it was like, no matter what social platform I was on, the local news
Yeah.
internet, it was all about NAR, the lawsuit, the changes. Oh my gosh, real estate's changing. We're, all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, and I don't think it's me because I'm still on social media, I'm still on the internet. I do listen to the news a couple times a week, and there's nothing. Is that
There
just
is
me, or are
nothing.
you feeling the same way?
No, I see it as well. And that's interesting because part of it could be blamed on our news cycle, right?
Sure.
Our news cycle now is just something that is everything today will be forgotten tomorrow.
Yes.
And so I have to say that I think there's a little bit of that there. However, on the inside of the industry, it has gone flat here as well. So all of our media that comes to us just about the industry is not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically the National Association or Association. And I don't know if they are taking that we don't have any new news to share theory. I'm not really sure, because when the verdict first, I was on legal webinars at least once a day and many days twice a day for about 10 days straight. My
Yep.
head was spinning. A little bit hungry for some more of it. Like, where are we at?
You just froze.
And I
So
could be
I'm
wrong
gonna.
on this. And
Yep.
Is it better now?
Yep.
Am
It's
I
better
back?
now. Yep.
Okay.
You're back.
I'm curious if some of that has to do with the being appealed. Are we not having more discussions about this and appeal on the table? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know either, but I think that's part of it, because as you and I both know, as most of us know, when you are in a court situation, when you're being sued or there is an appeal, you're instructed by your attorneys not to talk about it.
Right.
So maybe that's part of it. And again, I'm creating a story. I'm guessing. I don't know the facts to this, and I want to be clear. I don't know why, but that is something I feel that could be part of it, is because, well, if we're going to appeal it, we probably are being instructed not to be writing things about this all over the place. I don't know, but I'd love if anybody has any perspective on this who's listening or listens later, let us know. I had a coach call this morning with one of my realtor clients in New York, and they just got a new rule. So it's in the New York Association of Realtors, that they can't they got sued because they were discriminating against people that they were only showing homes to people that got, sorry, my brain is just like, Tanya, bring it in, because I want to say it's crazy and I need to be careful on what I say. If they're not pre-approved, right? Typically realtors don't take people out unless they're pre-approved.
Right.
Well, apparently somebody got sued over this, and it got called discrimination. So it's okay to take buyers out if they're not pre-approved. You can't discriminate.
Yeah, that's because the sellers should have some rights as well to not have people coming through their home that aren't buyers.
Correct.
And if you're not pre-approved, you're not a buyer.
Correct. So how her broker was having them handle it is like, okay, they have to show homes. They can't say no. Though they will get fined if they say no. So there's like, okay, let's go look at homes. And in some ways they're not even supposed to ask. It's like, okay, are you working with a lender? They're trying to figure out how to work around this new rule. And it's just really sad for the buyer's agent.
It really is.
In my opinion. And I'm okay with stating my opinion on that one. That one's crazy.
Yeah. And I also, a safety concern there too, because when I get to speak to my loan officer who's met these people, even if it's not in person, and then enough information to the loan officer to validate who they are, they're in a position to buy a home. There's a little safety there. Somebody just
so there's a new part of that rule. They're not allowed to ask for ID.
Oh, wow. That's
That's
a
really
problem
sad.
waiting to happen.
And I said, well, Yeah, so there's no way they're going in my car. So if I were showing homes, I mean, I don't do this anymore, but if I was doing this, when I especially, I mean, if they're a referral and I know them and they're, a really good referral, I probably would feel very safe. Right. But if this is
Right.
off a sign call or something and they'd come into
Yeah.
the office, the first thing I had the office person do was take a copy of their driver's license. We can't, in New York, they can't do that anymore.
And also in New York, fun fact, it's illegal to have a stun gun. So what do you have that you can protect yourself?
Goodness. Yeah. Yeah. It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that. I flew there with one in my suitcase. And I was getting on the boat to go out to see the Statue of Liberty. And I was like, oh, we're going through the metal detector. I have a stun gun. So I asked a mounted officer, what do I do with this? And he goes, you go find a place to get rid of that. It's illegal. And I should actually be arresting you. I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be awful?
Yeah.
Go to jail in New York for not knowing that?
Yeah, that would not be a fun thing. So all the things as real estate agents that we don't think about, or, the average person might not think about, right? And they don't have to think about it. But there's a lot to, putting strangers in your life and going off and doing that. Or even I remember one open house. This was many, many years ago. I was in Florida. So my kids are now 25 and 27. So they were about 3 and 5.
Mhm.
And so that's about how long ago this was. And I remember somebody coming into an open house, a gentleman, and he went upstairs and wasn't coming down and wasn't coming down and wasn't coming down. And so I just stood outside in the front and I don't even think I had a cell phone back then.
Mhm.
You're right. But I was not going back in the house. If I had to go to the neighbor and call the police, that was my next step. And he finally left, but something strange was going up because he was up there, a half an hour.
Yeah. And there's no need for that. Yeah, that whole thing in New York is frightening to me. And I want to go back to the NAR. One thing that I think is really interesting is there is a good number of states who have always used buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, who are just saying, what's the big deal? We've always used it, right? And so on my broker support call, every state that was represented on there has already used it. So that was sort of an interesting thing as well, because it is still a nationwide situation with the lawsuits. However, I think the changes are not nationwide.
Correct.
It already exists, right, for some.
Yeah.
And then you also have the states who still use attorneys instead of agents, right? So they're not as affected. So that's a little interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what's interesting about coaching everybody in different states is that the ones that have, like in Washington State, and I know Rachel is, and then I coach somebody in North Carolina. They've been using this for years. However, most of everybody needs to change a little bit their verbiage around, sellers now too.
Yes,
that's
agree.
Changing too. And I don't think anybody has ever said, what we need to say now.
Yeah.
You?
I can tell you, I can tell you what I've told my agents to do.
Yeah.
And, we're talking to different states here, so it's not appropriate everywhere, but, we go to a listing appointment, basically showing them, here's the fees of selling your home. And I think if we show a range of what that commission might be based on what they are or are not going to offer a compensating, a cooperating broker.
Yep.
That's a great way to have a conversation, right?
Yes,
because if I tell you, Mr. Seller, your fee can be A or B, explain why A or why B. And that seems the premise of what supposedly didn't happen in those plaintiffs' cases. And, an interesting fact, and you and I have talked about this, I was that the defense did not put any of those real estate agents on the stand.
Yeah, that's what I heard, the same thing. Yep. Yeah.
And I said, did they not do a good job explaining what they should have explained? Or did the defense properly? And we won't know until it goes to appeal and all of those things.
Yep.
come about. But are there agents throughout, the nations and the states that don't represent themselves or their companies well? Certainly.
Yeah.
And so I think it all comes down to education. As you well know, that's huge for me with my agents. We were on the phone immediately
Yes.
on emergency meetings. I want everyone to be like extremely transparent. This is how it is. And you're the one that taught me about having crucial conversations, right? So
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
we can't stuff under the rug. Just hit it head on. Have the
Yeah.
conversation. Excuse me. And
It's
the
okay.
questions
Yes.
will come out.
Yes. And no, you've done a great job. And in the real estate agents that I coach, the ones where the brokers have really stepped up to educate and practice, and let's role play and let's look
Yeah.
at the contracts, and this is a better way of saying it. They're really okay. I mean, that doesn't mean they might not like it, but they feel more stable because they're in community and conversation, and then they have, you know, our group, and it's great. Then when I have somebody, and I know a few of them, when they share in our private groups, where like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, I know, some don't even know what's going on, and brokers or they're like, well, the broker isn't doing anything yet. I don't
Mhm.
know what I'm supposed to do. So that's sad to me, that
It
there's
is
some
really sad.
ostriching going on over it. So I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
bringing us on every week and see what's new, see what's working, see what's not working, and create a safe space for hopefully people to listen and hop on. It's important. Now, I know good news. I saw today on LinkedIn that the interest rates went down to almost
Yeah.
6%.
I
That's
know.
good
We're so
news.
excited about that. Yeah. And we have that to actually report, right? Because for a year we've been saying they're going to come down.
Yeah.
So it's nice to actually say, hey, they did.
Yeah. They did, and it's a normal rate,
Yeah.
right?
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as we're not looking at, COVID as being normal rates, because they weren't. But, an interest rate at 6% is a great rate for a home buyer.
Sure is. It sure is.
Yeah.
And it's been it was January 3rd of 2001 when it went to 6%. And since then, up until it had not been over that, right? So that's a
Yeah.
large group of people that had never seen in their adult life percent. So
Right.
those of us that have been around the block a few more times, we're
Yeah,
like,
I'm included in that. Yeah.
like, what are you guys crying about? Like, don't worry about it,
Yeah.
However, it was a really interesting time if you think about where they've come from.
Yeah.
And we have now, I'm starting to see some assumable loans be really attractive.
Yep.
And right, as we know, the most popular loan that is assumable is the VA loan. And in our brokerage right now, we have two of them that we're working on, and the rates are below 3%. So one's at 2.25 and one's at 2.75. And that's really attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some things that come along with that too. If any of you are thinking about doing that, make sure you reach out and talk to the person that note, because there's a lot of information
Right.
that have
Yep.
both parties. But
Yeah.
that's interesting. And this is just how it goes, right? I remember in 2008 when they reduced artificially reduced rates a bit, but mostly what they did was raise the lending limits
Yep.
to where in the area that I worked, I had never seen or an FHA loan, and I didn't know why. And then I found out as I got educated, that was because the loan limits nobody
Right.
could.
You weren't in that price range.
No, not at all. And so
Yeah.
thing with assumable loans, right? It's something that a lot of us have never dealt with, and it's always out there. And so that's one thing that I find intriguing about this business is there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's changing. So we have to learn if we want to stay current.
yeah,
And being in touch with people like you, great lenders, so that we are educated. So, realtors who are listening, lenders, that's being educated and being out there in social media, or, updating your database is important,
it is.
because the average person doesn't know.
No, I agree.
If you,
Um,
yeah,
and I was way into exactly that, things are always changing and some of them we don't like what just happened.
no,
That was like,
yeah,
oh, don't do this. And now it's
yeah,
actually going to be okay. It's just
yeah,
when it comes down to it, after all the big scary stuff, it's just about more transparency or
sure,
being even more transparent, right?
yeah.
So it's okay.
It's okay, and it's learning to pivot, right? Learning new conversations. It's having crucial conversations. It's practicing. It's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Hiding under the bed isn't going to make you money.
No, no, it's not. And
No.
it's amazingly you can fall behind in this industry.
Yeah.
Um, I have a friend that years ago took a hiatus for about a year, and it was like talking to a time capsule because he was in the lending
Wow.
industry, right? And he said, how come I'm no longer getting in California the TDS and the SB, the seller required disclosures
Right.
with your contracts? And I said, you don't need those. Well, there was once upon a time where he did. I had even
Yeah.
forgotten about that, right? Because literally it moves on so fast. In
Yep.
2009, there were 240 underwriting guideline changes. That's one per business day for an entire year.
That's insane.
So,
Yeah.
we get paid to be well educated in what we're doing,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep. And that is an important part of our job description. I remember when 2000 hit and I was a full-time real estate agent, how quickly and intentionally I learned about foreclosures and short sales. And in my area, because I was in Houston at the time, was I? Yes, I was in Houston at the time. I became the short sale expert. And I knew more Wells Fargo people, lenders, right? Because for whatever reason, a lot of them were with Wells Fargo, but I created really good relationships with Wells Fargo because I needed to call them and say, help me with this short sale. I need to push this through. Because you know how long it took to do a short
Oh,
sale. It
yeah.
could take 6 months to get a short sale approved. It was
Yeah.
crazy. So yeah,
Yeah,
being okay to learn and do something new is important.
it is.
It
And
needs to be a superpower. Even if it's not, we've got to find it.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just the desire. I mean, I read at least an hour a day of industry news.
Mm,
And sometimes it's repetitive and sometimes there isn't anything there. But I'll be darned if I'm going to take a chance of missing something big.
right. Yeah.
It's just not worth
Well,
it,
that's what makes you so good.
Well, thank you.
I feel really bad making you keep talking with the way you're going. And I'm looking at it, and we're at about a half an hour. So I want to make sure I put your banner up for anybody who sees this
Yeah.
now or sees this later. I'm putting your banner up. And um anything else you want to say before I say goodbye to everybody and let you, get your voice back?
Thank you. No, other than I really appreciate doing this. I mean, I love chatting about the business. My family gets really
Mhm.
tired of hearing about it. So I really
Yep,
like
I
coming
know.
on.
Well, I
So
want
I
to do this
appreciate it.
again. I don't want you to be a stranger because we can do this, in a couple weeks, something pops up. Let's get back on. I know how well educated you are on this topic, so I totally trust your, you know, not just your opinion, but your direction for people. And so yes, let's make and then you'll feel better too because right now I feel yeah.
My whole voice
And
back.
I know a comment just popped up, but I don't see it. Let's see what happened. Where did it go? Let me change my screen. Nope.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I think it was Rachel saying thank you.
Oh, okay.
And feel better. Okay, good. It's
Thank
just
you.
not quite in my view. I have to change the banner. It's kind of weird on my end.
And I see
Okay.
tears there.
So you get healthy,
Thank
right? Keep doing all the good work that you're doing. We'll come back on in a few weeks and update, and we'll talk about other topics too, right? But right
Yes,
now, making sure we're having the right conversation so nobody gets fined or sued is really important, even
it
if
is.
it is a quiet topic right now.
I agree. Go read and ask questions. Read and ask questions. Just
Yeah.
find your group of people that want to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. I'm going to put on some music. Karyn, don't hang up. So I can, and but let me see if I can get that up and running. It's for whatever reason, there's always a glitch in this for me, and I'm used to it. So there you go. Here we go.